I'm frequently asked by students whether they should use open strings or not in their bass lines, and sometimes underneath my video lessons I'm asked why I didn't use an open string in a particular bass line. So I thought it was worth making a quick video to clear this up and also to dispel any urban myths that there are floating around about playing open strings on the bass. All the examples in this video are on a PDF. You can get that for free by clicking the link below this video in the description. To start this video, I just want to say that yes, we do play open strings on the bass, but when do we use them? Well, the most obvious place to use open strings is when we play the low E. Okay, so we can't avoid playing an open string there unless we're playing on a 5-string bass, but I'll talk more about 5 strings later on in this video. An example of an open low E would be in the bass riff from Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. So we've got this riff here. So we're sort of bouncing off that low E. Now we do have a D in that bass line as well, but we wouldn't really play that open because it's really tricky to play like this. Okay, so it just doesn't sound great at all when you use that open D, so you fret the D there. But obviously you play the E open. Let's look at another bass riff. This one's from Time Is Tight by Booker T and the MGs, played by Duck Dunn. I featured this in my last video lesson on flat wounds and P basses. So this riff here. Okay, so we've got those open A's there. Would we play the A's open or not? Let's try them with open A's. Now that to me is technically harder to play. The open A's sound alright, but I would play this bass line or this riff with a fretted A. This does raise an important issue that sometimes it's down to personal decision whether we play a note fretted or open, if we do have the option to play it open. Listen to the A, that's an open A, and then a fretted A. So that's a very different tone on both of those, so sometimes it might be a tonal choice. It does open up options to have the open strings for A, D and G, okay? We can play them open or their fretted equivalent. But using an open string can sometimes mean that it's harder to stop that note when you go on to the next note. So for this Time Is Tight riff, I think it's harder to play open strings. After the A, you play the G, okay? There's a risk of that A ringing out. You can mute it, but it's much better when you fret it. So this is where personal preference comes in. Sometimes you can stretch further to play a fretted note, but that means you've got more control over that note. You can stop it easily, you can mute it easily afterwards if you want. If you're enjoying this video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking the red subscribe button on the corner of the screen. And if you click the bell and select all, then you'll get notified as soon as I release a new video. I can't make a video on open strings without talking about James Jamerson, the famous Motown bass player. He was known for playing a lot of open strings where other players might fret them. Okay, especially for A's and D's. Now he did come from a background of double bass. On the double bass you do use a lot of open strings just because stretches are bigger, it helps with tuning, so maybe that's why he played a lot more open strings. If you use flat wound strings like Jamerson and a really bassy tone, then the difference between the open string and the fretted note is more minimal, okay? On round wounds you can hear the difference more clearly, but on flat wounds you can't. So again, that might have been a factor for James Jamerson using open strings more. Let's look at James Jamerson's bass riff from Nowhere to Run. I'll play it for you. So we've got lots of open Ds there. Open D, and then D, E, D, F, D, F sharp, G, okay, that second bar. you try that with fretted Ds, it's much harder. I can play it. But it's much harder work. But you can hear the difference in tone there, okay, with the open Ds and the fretted Ds, okay? And so again, it's down to personal choice there. I would use the open D in that situation. So this is a really important use of open strings. Use them when it makes fingering patterns more efficient. Admittedly, some of the Jamerson lines that you used open strings for, the open string doesn't make the line easier, it just changes the sound of it. But in lots of situations, it's definitely easier if you put open strings in. Open strings are also useful when you've got a pickup note, especially when that pickup note is an octave lower. Like, look at this riff. Okay, so in the first bar we've got a pickup A, and that's the 16th note A. So if we fretted that, you could do it, but it's much easier to play that open A. It sounds quite nice with that different tone. Okay, it's more bouncy. Then you've got the second bar. Okay, we're sort of bouncing off the D. I use fretted Ds, a bit harder to play, okay? So with open. Okay, so we've got lots of pickup notes, then they're much easier to play when you've got open strings. Open strings can also be very effective when we're playing chords on the bass. So look at this pattern here. Okay, so we've got sort of B7, E7, and then A major 7, okay? So you can use that A there, but it's quite nice with that low A there, the open A, okay? Low E, low A. Okay, so it can be really good when you're playing chords to have the open string in the bass note, or sometimes when you're playing melodies and just want to play an open string as well. That can be really effective. When playing a 5-string, you approach open strings a little bit differently. You don't use them as much. One reason being that you've got a low E, so the 5th fret of the B string, you've got that E there. Okay. So look at this groove. Okay, so we're using some E's and low D's there. You could use it with open E's. Okay, but it's much easier on a 5-string. Play it there. Okay, and you play a lot of E's and F sharps. You end up on this part of the neck a lot more on the 5-string. So that groove there, you can only play it there. That's with F sharp on a 4-string, but you can play it here. So for that reason, you don't shift as much, and you just use less open strings. But you can use them. You can choose to use them because, again, they sound different to the fretted equivalent. So there's nothing stopping you using open strings on the 5-string. So to summarise, open strings are really important to us bass players, especially when playing a groove with a low E in it, or to help with more efficient fingering patterns, when using certain pickup notes, especially low octaves, and for the bottom note of certain chords. Open strings do sound different to their fretted equivalent, but we can use that to really good effect because the changes in tone, we can mix it up a bit and we can decide on the open string just because it's got a different tone. Some bass players use open strings a lot more than others. This is totally down to personal preference. Jamerson, for example, used more open strings, so it's up to you really. There are many ways to play certain riffs, and if you want to use open strings, then definitely use them. Well, I hope you liked this video. I'd love to hear what you thought of it, whether you use open strings more, whether you try to avoid them, whether you might try them a bit more after watching this video. Just let me know in the comments, and I read all those. I love to see them. You can also help me out a lot by liking and sharing this video, and don't forget also to subscribe to my channel. And if you felt that you got value out of this lesson, you can always buy me a coffee. They're $5. The details are at the bottom of the screen, or if you look below in the description, you can find links there that you can click on. You can pay by PayPal or by card. And also check out my website, gbshed.com. I've got bass courses, t-shirts, books and loads more free bass content. So that's gbshed.com. This is Greg from Greg's Bass Shed. Hopefully see you very soon in the next video.